Well, good morning and welcome to ELN Morning. I'm Baylor Rodman.
And I'm Isabella Seaman.
Well, it was a big night last night for vice presidential nominees Mike Pence and Kamala Harris as they faced off for the first time during the vice presidential debate and the only time in Salt Lake City, Utah. Both candidates dodged some critical questions while providing some contrasting views on everything from coronavirus to the Supreme Court.
American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate.
There's a lot to unpack this morning, but we are in good hands with political historian and Elon professor Mark Dahlhaus.
Professor Dahlhaus, good morning to you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
So let's hear it. What are your key takeaways, do you think, from the debate last night?
Yeah, for me, this debate, both candidates, I think, did what they needed to do. If you're the vice presidential candidate, you do not want to be the lead story the next morning. And I think both candidates accomplished that. I think really, in terms of that, I think it was a draw. I do think, however, that it's easy to miss really the historical significance of the debate last night. Whoever wins the presidential election in a few weeks will be the oldest president in U.S. history. And so really what we saw last night, in addition to a vice presidential debate, perhaps was a pre-presidential debate between two people, one of whom is very likely to be president of the United States in a few years. So I think there was a lot of significance there, as well as the fact that it was a historical moment in that a woman of color for the first time was on the debate stage as a nominee of a major party.
Now, Professor Dahlhaus, you said that you thought it was a draw. Do you think the debate last night changed the minds of any undecided voters? And also, did this debate hold more weight than any other vice presidential debate before?
Yeah, historically, vice presidential debates, they're interesting in the moment. They provide some news the next morning. But in terms of an election turning on it, or in terms of great blocks of voters moving because of a vice presidential debate, that has not been the case. And I did not see anything last night that suggests that that would be the case this year. I think that if the polls are correct, the number of undecided voters is quite small this year. I think I'll go with the conventional wisdom and say I think most people at this point have probably made up their minds. I think if anything, I think what happened was that for the partisans on both sides, I think this probably confirmed their belief in their candidate and belief in the ticket.
Sure, yeah. So I know you touched on this a little bit, but there are certainly some questions that were left unanswered, as you said, both of them referring to their boss's age, right? And how, about that transfer of power. But was there something else also maybe on policy that you wanted to hear from both candidates that you felt like you didn't get last night?
Yeah, I do. I think for both of them, I do. I think that Senator Harris did not answer the question about the Democrats' plans for expanding the Supreme Court. She artfully dodged it twice, and I think that will be an issue for the rest of the campaign. Conversely, I don't think Vice President Pence spoke to the Trump administration's record on the coronavirus. He used that as really a springboard to pivot to his talking points. And both of them were skilled in that way. I give them points for that. But those are two areas that I think we could have heard a lot more.
Okay, moving on, Professor Dahlhaus. So this morning it was announced that the next presidential debate will be virtual. Now, we haven't seen candidates in two different locations since the Nixon-Kennedy debate.
Right.
So what kind of landscape does this change for viewers?
Well, and subsequent to that, there's been news this morning that President Trump has said he will not participate in a virtual debate. So that was within the last hour, I believe. And so if that's the case, it's possible that Vice President Biden could have 90 minutes to himself, assuming that the commission proceeded with the debate. I think, if anything, if in fact a virtual debate does come about with the two candidates, I would hope, for the sake of civic discussion and more information about their positions, that it would be a toned-down affair and more informational.
Absolutely. Professor Dollhouse, it's always a pleasure. And thank you
you.
so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thanks very much.